مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم
وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبارك وسلم. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فجاءته إحداهما تمشي على استحياء قالت إن أبي يدعوك ليجزيك أجر ما سقيت لنا صدق الله العظيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وسلم عليه. Most honorable respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Last time in our previous video we covered the first part of Musa alayhi salam's life in Egypt, whereby we found out that Musa alayhi salam had killed a Coptic an Egyptian Coptic, and he received news from an individual from the far side of Egypt who informed him that Fir'aun was plotting to kill him alongside his ministers. So because of this he was told to flee from Egypt. So Musa alayhi salam, with the guidance of the angel, he was able to reach a place called Madian. So Musa alayhi salam, when he reached his Madian, he finds that there is a group of people stood next to a well, and what they are doing is they are taking water from their well and giving it to their flock, giving it to their sheep, watering their flock. They're making sure that their flock are drinking this water. So he sees this, and alongside that he sees two women stood in the back. Two women stood at the back with their flock. So he says to them, Ma khatbukuma, what's your circumstance? What's wrong with you? Why aren't you watering your flock? So the two women, they turn and they say to Musa alayhi salam that, we usually water our flock after these guys are done, because we don't want to put our modesty on the line. We don't want to put our haya on the line. There's all men there, we don't want to go there and embarrass ourselves. We don't want to go there and, maybe someone may misbehave with us. So we don't want to do that. So usually we wait. And it was from amongst the practice of these individuals, these men, that when they would finish watering their flocks, they would place the boulder which was initially on the well back onto the well. So that which was left behind from the initial men who take the water from the well, that which was left behind, meaning the water that was left on the floor and within that area, the women would use that to water their flock. And they told Musa alayhi salam that indeed our father is old, he's an old man. So of course at first glance you would assume that this was something that a man would do, in terms of giving water to his sheep. But actually it wasn't that. It was the case that these women themselves were doing it, because their father at that time had reached an old age. So Musa alayhi salam, he decides to help them. So he goes, he lifts the boulder from the well and he waters the flock. And the women, they're very thankful, and they walk off and they go home. And it mentions in the tafsir here that لما رجعت المرأتان سريعا بالغنم إلى أبيهما. So these two women, they return home very quickly with their flock to their father. أنكر حالهما بسبب مجيئهما سريعا. And the father, he was very surprised that they returned with their flock so quickly, because of course usually, as we know, what happens is these two women, when they were there, they used to have to wait for the men to first water their flock. Then after that they used to water their flock. So they come home rather unusually quickly today. So فَسَأَلَهُمَا عَنْ خَبْرِهِمَا. So the father, he asks them as to what took place, what happened, why are you guys so early today? فَقَسَّتَ عَلَيْهِ مَا فَعَلَ مُوسَى عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ. So they narrated to the father what took place with Musa alayhi salam, i.e. that a man come and he helped them. فبعث إحداهما إليه لتدعوه إلى أبيها. So one of the two of these women was sent then by the father to call Musa alayhi salam, as in to go to Musa alayhi salam and say, my father is calling you. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Qur'an al-Kareem, فَجَاءَتْهُ إِحْدَاهُمَا. So one of these two women, they came to Musa alayhi salam, تَمْشِي عَلَى اسْتِحْيَاء, with modesty. They came towards Musa alayhi salam with modesty. They came to Musa alayhi salam, completely covered with garments, not coming, the way when a guy meets another guy, it's okay for him to come and shake the hand of his friend. People come, yo, what's going on? But it's not from the etiquettes of a woman to be meeting a man like this. Oh, what's going on? How are you? Okay? It's not like that. The modesty of the woman, whereby she lowered her head, made sure that her gaze was lower, she approached him. And even then, she says to him, Inni abi yad'uka liyadzika ajran ma sakaita lana. Indeed, my father is calling you. It's not me who's calling you, my father's calling you. And he wants to reward you for what you did. He wants to reward you for what you did for us. So Musa alayhi salam, he's like, okay, that's fine. So he follows this woman and he's walking with this woman. And it's reported that actually this woman initially, it's mentioned in Tafsir Jalalain actually. She's walking initially in front of Musa alayhi salam. And as she's walking, the wind blows and the garment of the woman, from the legs of the woman, it slightly unveils the leg of the woman. And Musa alayhi salam notices this. But he doesn't want to let his eyes avert there. So he says to the woman here that, look, he says to the woman here, Imshi khalfi, you walk behind me, you walk behind me. And then he says to her that, if I'm walking to your house now, if I want you to guide me, so much so that if I walk on the wrong path, so if I take the wrong turn towards the left, I want you to throw a pebble towards the right path. So if I'm walking straight, there's two roads, one the left, one's the right, and I turn to the left, and that's the wrong way, throw a pebble towards the right, and I'll walk that way. He didn't even want to hear the voice of the woman. So it's not only a message to the women. I don't want any female to be watching this thinking, what's Maulana Sahab saying here, or women need to have haya. Of course, it's a two-way thing. The woman needs to have a haya in terms of approaching the woman, in terms of approaching the man. But likewise, it's also similar for the male, whereby Musa alayhi salam, he sets a perfect example. He doesn't want his gaze to avert, so he makes the gesture by saying to the woman that, let me walk ahead. And then he doesn't even want to be affected by the voice of the woman. He doesn't even want to be fazed by the voice of the woman. So he says to her that, Allahu Akbar, just throw pebbles in the way that I'm supposed to be going, throw pebbles there and I'll turn that way. So eventually he reaches the house of this old man, and it's reported actually, again mentioned in Tafsir Jalalain, that this was Shu'aib alayhi salam. This old man was Shu'aib alayhi salam, and he meets Shu'aib alayhi salam, and Shu'aib alayhi salam, he calls him in the house and he offers him food, and Musa alayhi salam, he sits and he eats, and he begins to narrate what took place in Egypt, and he tells him, I was in Egypt and I accidentally killed someone, and the Pharaoh and all of the Egyptians and the ministers, they're looking for me, and I fled from there, I ran from there, and I've come here. So this Shu'aib alayhi salam, he says to him, you don't need to fear, don't fear anything. Fir'aun, he has no control, he has no power whatsoever in this land. You just relax, you'll be fine. So he turns then and he asks the daughter, for more information, what exactly took place. And he mentions here in the tafsir, إِنَّهُ رَفَعَ الصَّخْرَةَ الَّتِي لَا يَتِيكُ حَمْلَهَا إِلَّا عَشَرَةَ رِجَالٍ. Allahu Akbar. So the woman mentions here to her father that indeed he lifted a stone from the well, which it's not capable for even 10 men to lift. This stone was only able to be lifted by 10 men. But Musa alayhi salam, the power of Musa, he was able to lift this stone by himself. So the first quality we find of Musa alayhi salam, that Musa alayhi salam was extremely hardworking. Musa alayhi salam was a very strong individual. And the second thing that she mentioned, she says that وَإِنِّي لَمَّا جَاءَتْ مَعْهُ تَقَدَّمَتْ أَمَامَهُ فَقَالَ لِي كُونِي مِنْ وَرَائِهِ. So when we were walking home and I was ahead of him, he said to me, you stand behind. You stand behind me. And what we find here is the honesty of Musa alayhi salam, knowing that, of course, you know, in nowadays day and age, you know, it's a sad reality. You know, a woman will walk past, and the man's gaze, you know, is just, you know, following the woman, you know, just watching where she's going. And similarly, even women do this. They're just looking at them and following, you know, following them. But Musa alayhi salam, the honesty he shows, the two qualities which he presented. The first was that he was hardworking, he was a strong individual, and the second, that he was an honest man. So she mentions that فَإِذِ اخْتَلَفْتُ عَلَيْهِ الطَّرِيقِ. So if Musa alayhi salam, he went on the wrong path, he informed her that, you know, if I go on the wrong path, I don't want to hear your voice, just throw a pebble and I'll go. So it just shows the haya of Musa alayhi salam as well. So after the individual had seen this, after the Shu'aib alayhi salam, he heard this from his daughter Shu'aib alayhi salam, this was enough. This was enough for Shu'aib alayhi salam. And he turns to Musa alayhi salam, he says, look, I want to offer you one of my daughters in marriage. Allahu Akbar. I want to offer you one of my daughters in marriage. However, I want you to do, after you've married my daughter, I want you to serve me, do service for me for 8 years. I want you to do service for me for 8 years. And what will be better if you do service for me for 10 years? So Musa alayhi salam, he thinks to himself, of course, look, I'm going to have a place to live, I'll have food, I can do khidmah. So Musa alayhi salam, he accepts this and he marries one of the daughters of this individual, and he does his 10 years. But even before this, an important message for this is that the two qualities in which this individual, the two qualities which Shu'aib alayhi salam, he found in Musa alayhi salam, was the first was that he was an honest man, and the second that he was a hardworking man, a man who was a strong man. And these are the qualities which Shu'aib alayhi salam decided that this was enough for his daughter to be happy, for his daughter to be protected in a marriage, i.e. for the purpose of deen, for the purpose of religion. And what's a sad reality today is that when you look at today's marriages, a person, he'll go for a rishta, he'll go to get married, and the very first question that we often see is, you know, how much do you get paid? Yeah, what's your job? What do you drive? Do you drive an M4? Do you drive a Mercedes, a Rolls Royce? No. Oh, okay. So what's your salary? Not much. You work as a janitor? And these are the first things that people ask. You know, what's your job? No one asks, you know, what? Do you pray your namaz? Do you fast? Are you fasting even now? You know, these sort of questions. You know, what's the akhlaq of the person? What is he going to look, if his akhlaq are not good, how is he going to take care of the daughter? How is he going to take care of your daughter that you're marrying him to? You know, what's your job? How much are you getting paid? How big is your house? But Musa alayhi salam, it wasn't about the house. Musa alayhi salam had nothing. He had two things, two qualities. Honesty, and he was hardworking. He was a strong man. These two things. And this was enough of a quality for Shu'aib alayhi salam to give one of his daughters away in marriage to Musa alayhi salam. And the second thing we find, an extremely sad thing in our community, especially in the Asian community, one of the backward mentalities that we have is that you see here that Musa alayhi salam, he did 8 years of service for who? For his father-in-law. He stayed in the house of his father-in-law. He did 8 years of service. You look today, you find people and you tell them, you know, I've just got married. And you know, even before people get married, husbands, before men get married, they will put a shart, a condition in the contract, or they'll mention to the woman beforehand, if you want to marry me, you're going to have to come and live with me. I'm not going to be seen in your house. Why? It's an embarrassment. It's a dishonor if I'm seen in your house. You know, I'm not going to be coming anywhere near your dad. I don't want people to know I'm even related to him. And this is what people do today. But Musa alayhi salam, he lived in the house of his father-in-law. Not only did he do that, he was in the khidmah of his father-in-law. He did service for him. He did work for his father-in-law. But if we do that today, Allahu Akbar, it's a dishonor to us. You know, we're not seen as men. But this is from the sunnah of Musa alayhi salam. Allahu Akbar, from the sunnah of Musa alayhi salam. So after all of this takes place, Musa alayhi salam, he spends his 10 years doing the service of his father-in-law Shu'aib alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam, he finally decides that, you know, it may be time for me to head on back to Egypt. So Musa alayhi salam, he takes with him his family and he departs on his journey. Musa alayhi salam is now heading towards Egypt, and it's getting dark now. It's getting quite cold, and Musa alayhi salam, he decides with his family, look, let's set up tent, we'll wake up later and we'll continue our journey. And in the midst of this, Musa alayhi salam, he sees a bright light from Mount Tur, from near Mount Tur. So he tells his family that, just hold up for a second, just wait here. I'm going to go and see this light. Maybe I can get some information about Egypt from here. And it's at this point, Allahu Akbar, when he goes towards this light, he hears a voice. Inni anallah Rabbul Alameen. Indeed, I am Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the universe. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he begins to speak to Musa alayhi salam. And Musa alayhi salam, he's shocked, he's taken back. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he asks him a question. He says, what is in your right hand? And Musa alayhi salam, of course, it's not the case that Allah did. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. He asks him, Ya Musa, what's in your hand? And Musa says, it's my staff. I use this to lean on. I use this to move things from day to day. I use this to recline on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says to Musa, throw down your staff. Throw down your staff. I'm going to give you something. Throw down your staff. So Musa alayhi salam, he throws down his staff. And by Allah, this staff, it turns into a serpent. It turns into a huge serpent. So much so that Musa alayhi salam, he begins to run. He begins to run in the opposite direction. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La takhaf, don't worry, why are you running? Don't fear anything. Come back here. You're from the Ameen. You're from those people who are secure. Don't run. So Musa alayhi salam, he comes back. He takes a hold of the serpent and he becomes a staff again. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says to him, why don't you place your hand in your garment? Place your hand in your garment, take it out. So Musa alayhi salam, he does it. He places it in his garment. He pulls out his hand. And it's reported that the hand of Musa alayhi salam became like a white noor, so much so that it looked like the moon. It looked like the crescent moon. Allahu Akbar. And this was from the two signs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he granted to Musa alayhi salam. And at this point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the purpose of these signs was when he mentions to Musa alayhi salam, Izhab ila Fir'aun, go to Fir'aun. Innahu tagha, indeed he's misguided. Huwa dalal, he's misguided. He's from the wrongdoers. Go and guide him. Show him these signs. So Musa alayhi salam, he's given these signs. And I want you to think about this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, he's saying a task for Musa alayhi salam. He's telling Musa, I want you to go to Egypt. I want you to confront Pharaoh and tell him that you are a Rasul and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one. There's only one Lord. That's all I want you to do. Just go there and tell him. So, you need to, let's picture this. Let's try to put this in your mind. So, Musa alayhi salam, he's just, he's killed someone. He's a fugitive in the land. He's left the land for 10 years. He's wanted. He's a criminal there. And they want to kill him. So, Musa alayhi salam, he's expected to go into Egypt in a place where he's a fugitive. In a place where they want to kill him. He's expected to go to the most protected, secure place where Fir'aun lives. He's supposed to go all the way up to the security guard. Tell the security guard, I'm here to see Fir'aun. After 10 years, he's a fugitive. He's not even going to make it past the security guard who wants to kill him. And after that, he's supposed to go up to Fir'aun, the man who wants to kill him, and tell this man who wants to kill him that, listen, you're not Rabb. Allah is Rabb. This is the task which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. It's not an easy task, is it? So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. So these are the signs that you are going to go there and show to Fir'aun. You're going to show him from our signs. And of course, this is what you would call a mission impossible. So so at this point, Musa alayhi salam, he needs some aid. He needs some help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's one man. Then Musa, and with Fir'aun, there's thousands of soldiers, millions of soldiers. And Musa, he's alone. And at this point, he can ask anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever he desires, he can ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever he wants. You want an army? Ask Allah, he'll give it you. But at this time, Musa alayhi salam, he turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbi shrah li sadri. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, expand for me my chest. Expand my chest for me. And to put this into context for you, what exactly this expansion is. He's saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and just to give you an example, You know, for example, if I start coughing tomorrow and I've got a headache and I've got all the coronavirus symptoms, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, keep me safe and keep my health good. But if, for example, I was coughing, I had all of the coronavirus symptoms, and I go tomorrow and I go to the hospital and I get a check, and they say to me, you'll have your results within a few days. So I go back after a few days and I'm waiting anxiously, knowing that my meeting's in 5 minutes, and my chest at this point is tightening up, I'm feeling very nervous, very anxious, uncomfortable, very worried. This is what Musa alayhi salam was saying, Rabbi shrah li sadri, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't let me feel this tightness in my chest. Expand my chest for me. Give me positivity. Give me happiness. Give me joy. Allow me to know that the help and the aid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be there. This was the dua that Musa alayhi salam made, that expand my chest for me. Never let me feel as though I have a tight chest. Never let me feel as though my Rabb is not there. Allahu Akbar. This is the dua Musa alayhi salam makes. And then Musa alayhi salam, he says, وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. After asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that make my chest expand my chest, take away any tightness from my chest, make me calm, make me cool, make me composed, make me collected. So then he says, وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي, and make my matters easy for me. This task, this mission impossible that you've set me, this difficult task, make it an easy task for me. Ya Allah, I know it's very difficult. I'm going to have to go there to Fir'aun, tell him you're not Rabb, they want to kill me. Make it easy for me. And then he says to him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Musa alayhi salam, he continues, وَحْلُلْ أُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي, and remove from me the knots and remove the knots from my tongue. وَحْلُلْ أُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي وَحْلُلْ أُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي, remove the knots from my tongue. And it's reported that when Musa alayhi salam was younger, he placed a hot coal on his tongue, which caused Musa alayhi salam in his life to have a brief stammer, a brief stutter. And he finishes by saying, وَيَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, so they may understand my speech, they may understand my kalam. And of course, the kalam which he was going to tell him was the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the issue wasn't with the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course not. The issue was with that in terms of expressing it. Musa alayhi salam, he made dua that when he speaks, he wants them to be able to understand the kalam. Nowadays you find that when you talk to someone, people, they will only, and listen to this very carefully, people will only listen to you to respond. People will not listen to understand. There's a big difference, listening to respond and listening to understand. So Musa alayhi salam is asking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he removes the knots from the tongue of Musa alayhi salam. He makes it easy for him to speak, makes it easy for him to express his kalam, and allow the people to understand his words. And what we know is here at this point that Musa alayhi salam, he's given all of these signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these two signs, and he's made this dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course he's accepted his dua. And then one of the greatest in the history of mankind, one of the greatest gift a brother has ever given to another brother, and I'm not talking about, it's his birthday and let's go and buy him a car, not that kind of a gift. The greatest gift a brother has ever given to another brother, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Musa alayhi salam asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow his brother to aid him in his mission, because وَهُوَ أَفْصَحْ مِنِّي, he is more eloquent than me in speech, he was able to articulate his speech better than me. So Musa alayhi salam, because of this, he allows, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants his brother Harun alayhi salam prophethood also, and he aids Musa alayhi salam in his mission. And Musa alayhi salam, of course, he arrives in Egypt, and to cut to the chase, he ends up eventually meeting Fir'aun, and he converses with Fir'aun, and he's talking to Fir'aun now and saying to him that, look, I'm here to tell you that, of course, you're not Rabb. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rabb. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who controls the heavens and the earth. And Fir'aun, as per usual, with his usual antics, oh yeah, of course he's the Lord, of course he's the Lord. Obviously he's taken the station of Lordship for himself, so what Lord is he going to accept? So Musa alayhi salam turns to him and says, if I show you a sign, if I show you something, will you accept? So Fir'aun, he's all for it, he wants to see this drama. He's like, what, go on, show me, let me see, let me have a look. So Musa alayhi salam at this point, he says to him, okay, I'll show you from the signs, but then you must believe. So Musa alayhi salam, he drops his staff, he lets go of his staff, and the staff turns into a giant serpent. And it's narrated in the tafsirs that the serpent was so big, the jaw of the serpent was hitting the ground, and the mouth, the top of the mouth was against the ceiling. Allahu Akbar. And it was racing, running towards Fir'aun. It was slithering towards Fir'aun. So much so that Fir'aun got up out of his chair. And it's mentioned that he shouted out that, "Yo, Musa, stop this." And Musa alayhi salam, he said that, I'll believe, just stop it. And Musa alayhi salam, he calls forth, he gets hold of the snake, and it comes back into a staff. And then Musa alayhi salam, he places his hand into his garment, pulls it out. Of course, he shows them the second sign, and the hand has become like nur, become light like the moon. And he said, these are from amongst the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So will you now accept Allah? Will you accept now that I'm his Rasul? And of course, as we know, what do you think Fir'aun is going to say? Oh yes, I've accepted? Of course not. He's turned and he said, you're a big magician. You're a big magician. This is, what you're doing? I can do that. You know what? I can have these magicians also. So he says to Musa alayhi salam that, why don't you bring your magic and I'll bring my magic, and we'll meet on a day. You decide what day. We'll meet on a day, and we'll come into battle with one another. We'll see whose magic is greater. So Musa alayhi salam, he says to him that, let's meet on Yawm al-Zina. And Yawm al-Zina here is a holiday. So a normal holiday, when anyone's available, when everyone's there, when everyone's able to come, he says, let's meet on Yawm al-Zina, and we'll meet at Duha. Duha is the morning. So the sun is shining. We don't want anyone to miss anything. We want the sky and the earth to be lit up. We don't want anyone to say, oh, we couldn't see, or there's any problem there. So let's meet on Yawm al-Zina at Duha. So Pharaoh at this time, he sends his scouts to find the best magicians, and they come to Fir'aun, all of these magicians, and they say to Fir'aun that, okay, we're going to do this for you, but what's in it for us? What are you going to give us? We're doing all this for you. You got to give us something back, money. What is it? Fir'aun, he tells them that, look, I'll give you all the power you want. I'll make you ministers. Hakaza, you can become this, you can that. I'll give you this much money. So at this time, the magicians, they accept, and they say, fine, you know what? That's yakfi for us. That's sufficient. We'll accept that. So just as they are preparing, Musa alayhi salam, he comes and he meets with these magicians, just to make sure that everything's going to plan, everything's accordingly, people can come and watch. And he says to them, Wailakum, woe be to you, what you guys doing? Knowing that what you're doing, and you know that previous nations who have come and defied the messengers and defied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have been destroyed. And Musa alayhi salam, he leaves this place, and the magicians amongst themselves, they start fighting and arguing with each other, saying, maybe Musa alayhi salam is right. Maybe, it makes sense to me. So after this arguing, a lot of them, they start telling one another, shh, be quiet. If we're too loud, Fir'aun will find out. And if he finds out, we're all done for. So one or two of the other magicians, they gather some courage and they stand up and they say, look, we're all in this together. We've practiced, we've done our drills. Let's just go out there, let's line up. And the way we practiced it, let's go, and whoever wins today, they're going to be from amongst those who are successful. So let's go and battle him. So they come out and try to picture this scene. There's all fans and there's people waiting. Everyone's watching. Everyone's looking. And they say that there was, in different narrations, they say there was 70,000 magicians, 70,000. And in other narrations, they mentioned there was 70. But either way, there was dozens of them. So they come and they line up in their safa, in their robes, and they face Musa alayhi salam, and they say, they have the courtesy to ask Musa alayhi salam that, do you want to throw first? Do you want to do your magic? And Musa alayhi salam says, no, go on, you guys, tafaddal, you guys go on, show me what you got. So the magicians, they throw down their ropes, they throw down their sticks, and they become snakes. They become snakes, and they start running and slithering towards Musa alayhi salam. And for a second, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Qur'an al-Kareem that for a second, that these guys, Musa alayhi salam, he felt some sort of, just a little bit of fear in his heart. And it's at this point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La takhaf, don't fear. I already showed you, for your signs before, just put your stuff down. So Musa alayhi salam, he puts his stuff down. And a huge serpent comes out, a huge snake comes out. And it absolutely devours all of the snakes, all of the little twigs that these guys had initially cast, this optical illusion, this magic that they cast, it absolutely devours them. And everybody now is looking in silence, not a word, completely silent. And at this point, you hear a thud. And this is the magicians who have all fallen in sajda. And they say, as they have fallen in sajda, Amanna bi Rabbi Harun wa Musa. We have believed in the Lord of Harun wa Musa. We accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Fir'aun at this point, he can't believe it. He can't believe it. He can't believe his eyes. And he turns and he says to them, who gave you guys permission? He's still denying. Who gave you guys permission to worship a Lord other than me? And do you know what I'm going to do to you? And he starts making ridiculous claims that you guys, you planned this from the beginning. I know you guys, you did this to make a fool of me. You know what I'm going to do to you? I'm going to take your right arm, I'm going to cut you, I'm going to put it there, your left arm, I'm going to put it there, I'm going to hang you on a tree, I'm going to crucify you. And these magicians, they turn to Fir'aun and they say, look, you can do what you want. Whatever you want to do, that's fine, you can do it. But we believe in the Lord of Harun and we believe in the Lord of Musa. And we are happy with him. You only have control over a measly part of this dunya. That's all you have in control of. What are you going to do? Take our lives? That's it. They only wanted Rabb. And of course, these martyrs, which Fir'aun later he goes and kills, they accepted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they turned away from Fir'aun. After seeing the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they chose themselves to continue and to reject Fir'aun. And they accepted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a great lesson for us, that whenever you see zulm, whenever you see any sort of kufr, any disbelief, we shouldn't be pushed towards that. Any sort of obscenity, any sort of haram, we shouldn't be pushed to that. Just because others are doing it, just because someone else is enforcing on you, we should try with our own quwwah. We all have our own choice. And we can all say no. And we're going to leave it here at this point. And inshallah in the next video we will finish the qissa of Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun, what took place after that, what happened with Musa alayhi salam. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us all to take benefit, and I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me if I've said anything wrong. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينَ. السلام عليكم ورحمة
مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم.